Yo, yo, yo. What is going on, everybody?
How's everybody doing tonight?
Welcome to
Good.
Britchless, a very calm, relaxing podcast night. You know, just us three hosting together. How's it going, Philadelphia? How's everybody doing? How we doing, Nick? How we doing, Don?
Good, man.
Listen, yeah, I feel like I'm in the middle of a sports soap opera. It's just wild.
It's like you can't like a lot of these sports stories. You just can't write them. Like real life is so much better than scripted. You know,
Oscar, you could write them and no one would believe them.
Mhm.
Like if you would have told me that this is how the Ben Simmons saga played out, what's up, Chris?
Slow it on.
I would have never believed you. Never in a million years would I have ever thought that it would have played out like this. And that he would have turned out to be, he would have turned out to be the heel in all this.
Yeah.
And now, like the whole situation with how he's handling it now, like essentially just coming back to get a paycheck and then gets kicked out. It just makes no sense at all. Like, obviously it makes sense to him, but like, I love the comments from Embiid today.
Yeah.
The comments from Embiid today basically saying, listen, I'm not here to babysit him. I'm not here to babysit anybody. He's a grown man. He can make his own decisions, but we're moving on.
I mean, we're adults at the end of the day. I mean, you're a professional. You have to show your professionalism one way or another. I mean, yeah, sure, you're disappointed about some bullshit about how fans treat you, expectations, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But you're still getting paid. I mean, bottom line, show up, go out the right way. This is literally a train wreck that's going on with the Sixers, like at least with Ben Simmons.
I mean, I really think like I think the Sixers are getting some influence from the NBA to basically say like, hold on to whatever. Yeah, Chris, we'll get into it in a minute. I definitely did. The getting into the contract. He's 1 year into that deal. I think the NBA is basically saying like, yo, hold tight because we got your back. And this whole saga. I mean, the funniest thing is that he wants so bad to be out of here, but yet is self-sabotaging himself to make his value so little that the Sixers are basically going to hold on to him for as long as they want.
And I couldn't blame the Sixers for it.
I mean, Sixers are trying to protect their investment. It's smart that Adam Silver is coming out speaking on kind of behalf of the Sixers organization, because you know how the years with the Hinkie, they dogged us, right? So it's nice to see them come out and say, hey, you know what? He's got a contract he's supposed to honor. This is what we have to do. And to Adam's point about Doc sending him home, I don't know that it was necessarily Doc, because there was an interview today I listened to with Gary Payton saying that Doc's the most lenient coach he's ever played for. And for him to do that, I don't know if it's necessarily him. That could have been Elton Brand saying, listen, this guy right now, he's not doing you any good. Maybe Embiid said something, right? It's his team. You're dilly-dallying around. You're on the practice court with your phone in your pocket. You're not even doing anything you're supposed to do. You're not breaking down the huddle. You're not engaged in team drills. You're not even trying. Like, bro, what good are you? But one of the positives is they said I don't think he's gotten paid all month. He's out like a 1.4 million so far with fines and the misses that he's not going to recoup that. So listen, I know you're making a lot of money, but I think all three of us, if they tell me just show up or we're going to fine you, you're going to be losing $1.5 million. We're going to be like, I'm not losing that money. That's my money.
All right.
I'm coming. I'm going to do what I have to do. I'll be professional, because now he's not going to help himself when he does get traded.
Right.
Because now you know that there's going to be, if it is the Kings or the Pacers, there's some other players that they want to keep are going like, yo, I know you guys have been talking about it, but like, I don't know if I want to play with that guy.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Right.
And he's going to quit on me next year.
He's putting himself out for the league to be like that. He's become the butt of every NBA joke, to the point where you like what you're saying, Nick. No, everybody's kind of looking around at themselves and be like, I don't want him. I don't want him here. I don't want him with. I don't want him with our core. Like even I mean, listen, even basketball Siberia in Minnesota. You know, if I'm Minnesota, like, I would rather move forward with Anthony Edwards and and Towns and I mean they're never going to be relevant in the West anyway. But just the simple fact of having him there, like I would almost send him there like out of being petty and spiteful.
Absolutely.
Like just send him there because that's the last place he wants to be.
Listen, I don't care if those guys don't want him. They can have him. Take him.
Yeah.
Like, what do you? I think kind of now it's at the point where the way his mentality is that he is more. We're going to be better without him because I feel like it's going to be addition by subtraction just because of his mentality.
Right.
Like, is he going to go on the court and be like Ben at his best, where he's attacking the rim and doesn't care about getting the free throw line and dishing and locking down on team's number one player and running the full court? Like, I don't know if he's going to do that. Like, will he? Should he? Yeah, he should. He should just suck it up right now. Talk to the team, have a team meeting and say players only. This is what's going on. All right. You can listen, and to the players, if your agent has a lot to do with it, blame your agent. Who cares? Be like, listen, this is what I've been instructed to do. This is what's going on. I felt, he could tell them whatever the fuck he wants to tell them. Don't matter.
Yeah.
I don't care. But they can't at this point. There was a time maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago when they said that they're going to bring him back. They want him to come back when we were thinking like, listen, don't give him away for, we don't want the 12th man on people's rosters and future picks. Like that doesn't do us any good.
Right.
But then his actions since he came back they're not improving that. It's been worse the way he's acting. He's acting like a baby.
Right.
He hasn't come out into now. Did he was supposed to have a press conference today? Did he come out and talk to the media or no?
Nothing.
Yeah.
So he was supposed to
11:30
appear for the media around 11. I want to say like 11:30.
Yeah.
And then at one point they said it got pushed back to 12. And then just before 12, like 10 of 12 is when that news hit of him getting kicked out of practice and sent home. And
so maybe he didn't want
he wasn't gonna, and from what I can gather from some of the stuff that I saw about what happened, there was a drill that they were all participating in and he wasn't actively in the drill. And they asked him to step in and participate in the drill. And he basically said like, nah, I'm good. And they said, no, we need you to come in and participate in the drill. And he said, no. And at one point, Doc Rivers just said something to the kid of like, listen, if you're not going to be here and you're not going to be here and you're not going to work, you might as well just go home. And apparently he just rolled the ball across the court and walked out. So like that to me shows me that like we can want him to be all those things and we can want him to be professional and just come in and do your job and say, but I think what Embiid said, today is
you don't
pretty
care
accurate
about that,
to
man.
the fact that like that's not my job. My job is to go out and perform. My job is to go out and win games. And I'm not here to babysit. I'm here to win. So for me, I look at that and I'm like,
I think
like, what do you like?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, how do you go home, look yourself in the mirror, and be like,
because
I'm cool. I'm in the right. I'm cool with that.
He's been coddled his whole life. He's been told that he's the best his whole life. The people in his corner are all yes men. So he doesn't think that way. That's been apparent. Like, I've stood up. Me and Rich have been the biggest, Oscar too, biggest Ben supporters from the jump. Been like, listen, we want this kid to succeed. We need to give him the tough love to get him to succeed. But he's not showing it. All the other guys that we've embraced in this city would show improvement. They would want it. They would come and do that. He just doesn't do that. And his mentality is not right for a city like this where people want you to work hard and earn it, right? I think the two biggest things that I gathered from what Embiid says weren't necessarily that, I like what he said what he was supposed to say, basically, but the two things were shots, but they were also very important, which is when he said, I don't care about that man anymore, one. And the second one was he said, I'm not here to babysit. And he said, it doesn't matter if I am here to babysit because he doesn't listen anyway. He said it was more like, I can't babysit somebody who doesn't listen to what I tell them anyway. Right. So he's basically saying, like, it doesn't matter if I have a conversation with him. Maybe they have had that conversation. If he's just talking to himself, basically, what's the point? Don't waste your energy. I mean, him and Tobias have stepped up from, like, their conversations and getting the team together and ready to play. Now, listen, let the kid play. Let Maxey play. That's what I want to see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you can start to let those young guys play and get those young guys, I think you saw a lot of growth in Thibault over the summer, him with the experience that he got playing with the Australian national team, and he's only going to get better. So I think between putting Maxey in the starting lineup, still being able to bring Thibault off the bench to be that defensive presence. I think having the George Niang signing is good. It gives them another outside shooter off the bench. I like the fact that it kind of pushes Korkmaz a little further away from more minutes. Kind of eats up some of those minutes that you don't really want to give Korkmaz because he hasn't shown you that he can do it on both ends of the floor.
Yeah.
But I just the funniest thing is like I don't know how I can't see how this is going to play out. And does it drag on and drag on and drag on? Do they sell him short? I mean, honestly, Nick, what do you think? How do you think it plays out?
And they don't really have a choice, right? So, like, do you want to hold him out? I don't think it's going to be something where, like, within the next couple of days there's a trade made. Because the season is just starting. So right now everybody across the league is like, listen, we like our team, blah, blah, blah. They're going to say all the right things. Right. But after a couple of weeks, they're going to see, if your team's any good, right? Mm-hmm. So then there could be some guys that get disgruntled. Maybe they thought the thing was going to go a different way. Then, they get issues with teammates. They get into tiffs, or they don't like the way the new coach is. Something could happen. You're going to have to get lucky. Yeah. I did hear some story that a lot of teams don't even want to deal with Daryl Morey, which is a bad thing, that he overvalues all his players and they won't even take his calls. So that limits things there. I'm not sure I like that. That's when you have to kind of get Elton Brand maybe to make that call, right?
Yeah.
This guy don't make you make that call for whatever reason. They said back to the Houston days, it's just how he is. He overvalues his players. Could be. I also understand the Simmons perspective where you're looking at a 25-year-old asset who's an three-time All-Star. When he's in the right mindset, he's a good player. Yeah. If he's on the right team, he's a good player. So in a perfect world, what would I get for him? We get Bradley Beal for him. That's a perfect world. Does that happen? No, it's not going to happen. Now we have to kind of look at those role players because he said, he's still been steadfast with, I want an NBA quality, like a good quality player, all-star type player. Who's going to give you that? It's going to be somebody that is looking to move a contract that wants to get younger. So you're going to have to get an older player most likely, or you're going to have to get some unproven guys. And there's going to have to be some picks
I'm going to throw it into you. What about a guy out west who recently just had some contract issues?
Marvin Bagley?
No, DeAndre Ayton, right? So he had the ability to be able to sign his extension and didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to have an expiring contract at the end of the season.
So you're talking about the Suns, DeAndre Ayton, right?
Yeah.
I mean, he's a really good player. I like him a lot. But then the issue is
do you have shades of, Tim Duncan and David Robinson?
I mean, listen, if they could, I think that Joel is a good enough player and he's a good enough shooter to be able to move out and say, this is my team, I'll make it work. That would be really good if we could make that happen, right? Obviously.
I mean, that's a name that I thought, like, when I saw that expiring contract come up and they're like, oh, well, he's not signing his extension. He's not going to move to sign his extension. I was like, started making me think, like, all right, well, what kind of package would I have to put together to get him?
Yeah, it would have to be – you'd probably have to – with Ben, just because Ayton's going to be expiring deals, so that helps the Sixers.
Right.
Because you're going to have to hope you can re-sign him. And, with moving Ben, you're going to free – that money's just going to get right back to him. So you'll have less.
Could you do it, like, so that you don't lose that max slot? Could you do a sign and trade, like, where he signs the extension with the Suns, but then It's a sign and trade where he moves with you.
Yeah, you'd have to package something else with Simmons, though, I think, for the
Right.
Suns to even really entertain that, because who's to say another team doesn't do the same? You know what I mean?
You could, yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of good teams out there that could say, whoa, DeAndre Ayton, you know, he's on his rookie deal. So this year, unless we sign and trade him this year, we could go and get him, and then we can add another vet maybe just for like a 1-season push. Could happen. They have a good – see, it's just weird, like, what's his mindset? Because they have a pretty good roster aside from, like, Chris Paul being older. The Suns, they're a good roster.
Right.
So it's like, if I'm him, wouldn't I rather just stay and play with Devin Booker? Yeah, probably. But then if I come and play with Embiid, like, you know, down on the block, you're never going to get doubled. That would be literally that's a point guard's dream, because then when you just dump it in and one of the two Twin Towers is going to get a bucket for you.
Right, and you could pick and roll people to death. You could pick and pop, and and pop it out to to Danny Green or Seth Curry on the wing. You're going to have the amount of space that they would create on the floor with the way that Embiid can step out and still hit a three. I don't know. It was just something. It was a name that no one's talked about, and it just recently it just popped up that I thought, like, that it might have to be a deal like that they're able to move.
Yeah, I mean, that's just there's another tweet that came out today with Marvin Bagley and the Kings, what they're talking about, who his agent kind of came out and bashed the Kings for like mishandling his contract and stuff like that. And I think he wants out too, and he sees the writing on the wall there. That might be, and he's probably a better talent than some of these other deals. Like, is he better than Malcolm Brogdon? Yeah, he is.
Right.
Is he better than some of the other guys? Yeah, he is. He's younger. You just have to. He can't handle the rock like Ben could. It's fine. Right. I know that in a playoff spot, in a big spot, you go big. You put him, Tobias, and Joe on the floor together, and then you put Maxey and Seth on the floor. Like, that's a pretty good, formidable, start five that are on the court at a time. And he's young and he wants an extension. So maybe the Kings are willing to take that on. Just tell Ben, like, hey, come out here. The media isn't going to be anywhere near it. There's no expectations in Sacramento. There never is.
Right. There never is.
The original deal was, hey, we wanted De'Aaron Fox, or we weren't going to do any deal. We wanted, or Halliburton, or we're not going to do any move. Right. They didn't want to do that. But hey, if it means if I can get Bagley in the pick or something like that, and if he starts forcing his hand a little bit, that helps the Sixers' case, then hey, just go for it. They need to do something sooner rather than later. The issue is we might have to wait just because of the way the NBA season's unfolding right now.
Right. I think the NBA is also pissed to start the season off with like this.
They are, especially because the Sixers, they were the number 1 seed team last year. They're a Power 5, the top 5 market. They have Joel. We have Joel Embiid, one of the best players in the league. Doc Rivers is a marketable coach. They have a good schedule with. I think they play the Nets, right? They'll play the Nets first game.
Yeah.
So you're gonna have. The NBA is thinking, okay, well, we're gonna have 2 top teams in the East playing together, but then they're just gonna be talking about Ben Simmons all the time on the broadcast. It's gonna happen.
Right.
They're not talking about, oh, look at Embiid's been working on his fadeaway. It's gonna be, well, what do you think's gonna happen with Ben Simmons? And like Adam Silver doesn't want that for the league. So, I mean, maybe he steps in and does not necessarily, I don't want him to tinker, but maybe he's like, hey, you guys need to start taking these calls from Daryl and we need to make something happen because we can't have this anymore. Mm-hmm. Maybe that's what they need.
I can see that.
I'm with you.
All right, but let's move on to some more positive things. I mean, wait, hold on. They didn't win. I'm sorry.
they
won the Bucs.
They won.
So Thursday night they play the Bucs. They get a. I mean, I don't even know what to say at this point. You've got a team that just doesn't show any we said from the beginning it was week to week. I think the most frustrating thing about this team right now is the fact that you're not seeing any kind of change, any adaptation, any creativity from week to week. It is legit just static, same. And I think the alarming thing for me is the post game stuff from Sirianni, basically saying like, we really don't need to change anything. We just have to do it better.
And that's when
It's concerning.
I don't think that any coach, honestly, that hasn't been like maybe if he was successful in the NFL and that's how he thought, okay, like Belichick could get away with saying something like that, right? But somebody that's new to the head coach, that leads me to believe that he's not really calling the shots, right? When I hear him say that, because if he says we need to do this and this, and then what's his meeting like with Howie on Tuesday?
Yeah.
Does he get an earful and they're like, hey, listen, you're supposed to go up there, tell the media you're going to do better.
Right.
And then that's it. Let us call not running the ball is part of the problem. It's not the only problem, Adam. So you have a young quarterback who, listen, people can say what they want. They said it before. Oh, let's give him a shot. I've been adamant. He was never the guy. He's never going to be the guy. You can watch him. You watch him play. He's what he is. Would he be a very good backup? Absolutely. Would he be serviceable on a really good roster? Probably. But they run the same plays, right? They don't do anything across the middle. They don't give the running backs enough touches in general. Not even just run the ball. They don't give them enough touches. Period. They don't.
It reminds me of like the Tecmo Bowl playbook.
Yeah.
Right. You got 4 plays, and it's the bubble screen. It's the RPO.
Yep.
It's like the.
Well, the thing I don't know if Sirianni is like, because you look at Jalen's numbers, I think his numbers are better. His numbers are better than how he's actually played. Right. He's got 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. That you're like, all right, that's not bad. But when you watch the game, you're like, well, this dude doesn't know what he's doing.
Mm-hmm.
So
right. I mean, he looks like
we've talked about the arm talent. That's a big red flag. He doesn't have the arm talent. So people like, I've gotten arguments with our friend groups. Oscar knows, like, they're like, well, but I'm like, listen, but if you got the arm talent, first of all, he's late getting the ball out. I think it's because he needs to put everything into it. He can't just turn his hips and flick the ball out and get it where it needs to go. He can't do it.
I mean, look at some of those young guys that are playing right now.
Everybody
right?
else,
like Allen and Herbert, like those guys are in his same age group, right?
Kyler Murray, same size.
I mean, they sling it all over the place, and they can get the ball to any spot on the field at any time. And Hurts can't. He just like there's no getting around that one. I mean, he can have all the intangibles in the world, and he can have the best character on the team and be the best teammate. And but that one thing is his flaw. That's his character flaw. That is going to be the difference between him being able to be a guy that you can build around and him being a guy who's essentially, I don't think it's a shocker to say that his trajectory is probably a career backup. But I also think you have to play him every game, every play to see every aspect of the game. But I think you have to start to give him the opportunity to look at him, let him drop back in the pocket, let him make throws from the pocket, even if he's going to fail, right? Even if he's throwing picks, run the whole playbook. Give him the ability to be able to throw balls over the middle, to throw. I mean, the alarming thing is that, when you see him throw a deep ball, and I think we said this last week, he legit looks like the schoolyard kid kicking the ball off when you're playing 2-touch in the schoolyard, where he's like taking like 4 steps to get the ball 45, 50 yards down the field.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason what leads to picks and why we're not having any big plays, because you can't get the ball out in time, right? Like you see every game I watch these quarterbacks, like these guys, they just, they take 3 steps and they can just turn and throw it and it goes 50 yards, no problem, right? On a, and they put it where it needs to be. So, and receivers, it's not college. Receivers in the NFL, if they're covered, they're open basically, right, Oscar? So if the guy's on your back hip and you're running across the middle, you're open. But in his mind, he might think, oh, he's not open. Well, especially if you don't have the arm talent, because when you go to throw it, if you don't have the arm talent, that guy can just go, he can cut in front and that's a pick. So, guys aren't running wide open like they were at Alabama or Oklahoma, right? So it all goes back to, we talked about this before. He did lose his job at Alabama, right?
Mhm.
To Tua. Now, you guys have watched Tua play. Tua stinks.
Tua stinks. He's garbage.
He's got a rag arm too. So like these guys, they have the intangibles that Nick Saban likes. They're smart. They're good leaders. They'll say the right things. They're going to work hard. They're going to have their teammates back. They're going to be supportive. They're going to study. They're going to game plan. They're not going to go out and party. They're going to be home in bed by 9 o'clock, getting their sleep, waking up ready to play. It's great. But sometimes I need you to step into something and let it rip, and they just can't do it.
Right. They can't do it.
And then the issue becomes
their best play, like their best two plays on Thursday night were two pass interference penalties. Like just chucking the ball up.
So it's just like crazy. Like Nick Sirianni watches film. He says anyway, he watches practice. You have Miles Sanders, right? He would be a starting running back on what? 15, 16, probably more than that in the league right now.
Right.
He's your best playmaker aside from Devontae Smith, and you just don't give him the ball.
Yeah.
Well, he had one
doesn't make
touch.
Any sense.
He had one touch at halftime.
But that's what I'm saying. Like I don't need you to turn around and run the ball 15 times a half. I would love it. I like that. I think your linemen need that. They need push. Your line will look fresh to help your quarterback. But maybe if they would do 5 runs a half, then the play action becomes a real threat.
Right. But the play
then you can play action. Then you can run halfback wheel routes. You can run the CMC route where they cut out. They look they're going to the sideline, and then they cut across the middle, and he's wide open, and he gets a 20-yard pickup on 3rd and 15.
Right.
But they don't do that because he's not setting it up. So, like, my concern is you have all week to prepare your game plan, plan your plays out. They say usually you have your first couple, 4 or 5 drives scheduled.
Right.
Like, hey, if it's 3rd and 1, this is what we're going to do. 4th and 1, we're going to do this. We're going to punt here. We're going to go for it. So, like, what are you doing? Are you not doing that? Like, I think I do think he should experiment with giving up play calling. But then the issue is Shane Steichen, who's the offensive coordinator, the Chargers ran him out of town because they said his play calling was terrible.
Right.
It's like, is he going to be – if he runs the ball and he sets it up, maybe he learned from that mistake in the Chargers. He can come here and say, okay, we'll do this. It'll work. I didn't do this before. I should have did this.
Yeah, I don't get the going away from, like, they talk about how good Sanders is and they talk about Gainwell, but then they don't get on the ball. They don't make it a point to get on the ball, whether it's on a wheel route, whether it's when was the last time you saw them run a draw or a screen, right? But it's all these RPOs, and the thing that I think people don't realize is that, like, that RPO, like, instead of just having him drop back, make a read. Like, when was the last time you saw them run a slant?
They don't do it. They haven't done it for the last 3 years. Doesn't make any sense.
If you go back and look at Devontae Smith's tape at Alabama, what was he running all day long? Right? He's running those 10-yard slants.
Making people miss.
And that's what he does best. And I don't get how, listen, we all sit and watch the same game everybody else does. They have access to so much more information than we do. And yet they still continue to make the same decisions week after week. It's the thing that blows me away. It's I can't rationalize how, like, someone is not sitting in a room with them going, can we please run the ball? Can we run the ball, get the ball, we've got this select group of skill players between Smith and Gainwell and Sanders. How are we not getting them the ball?
Hey, Goddard too.
And Goddard too.
So now they have, like, I think it's going to come down to, you're going to have the players like Lane Johnson and Kelsey and those guys start speaking up in, like, the offensive meetings and saying, like, hey, like, we should be running the ball here on this situation. Like, we need it as linemen to get some push. Do they do that? I don't know. They talk about them being leaders. That's something the leader would do. And if I'm the coach, I have enough respect for them to know that they're not trying to undermine me. They're trying to help me. It just goes back to, this is not just Sirianni.
Yeah, this
right. This is the front office. They want. I've been saying this, right? Super Bowl was great, but with the Super Bowl, it gave them a false confidence that they are always right and they know what they're doing because we won a Super Bowl. Yeah, you got really lucky in that Super Bowl. You look at the injuries and how those players stepped up. I mean, Wentz he was going to be the MVP if he didn't get hurt against the Rams. Right. And then Foles just, for whatever, everything clicked. Frank Reich here helped a ton. You still had Deuce Staley, who was calling running plays, right? Everybody stepped up in that Super Bowl, right? In the playoffs, everybody did their job and stepped up. It was a perfect storm. So you're not going to get that lucky again, right? So now they're like, oh, we have 3 first-round picks this year. I don't trust you to make any of those picks. I don't care if they're 1, 2, and 3. You're going to mess it up somehow. You are. Because I can't trust you to make those picks. And then we're going to need a quarterback. I don't want any of the quarterbacks in this class. I've looked at them all extensively. I watched them play. There's no way that I'm just like, wow, this kid is special. Nobody.
No, like a lot of people are talking about the kid from Liberty. Like I am not.
Malik Willis. No, he's small. Listen, I don't want another 6-foot athletic kid. Like
no.
Unless he's Lamar Jackson, I'm not interested.
Right.
Right. And then I don't even want Lamar Jackson because this coaching staff wouldn't use him right. The Ravens drafted Lamar Jackson and they completely rebuilt their entire offense to complement him and make it work. That's what you need to do.
Right.
They don't do that. So they're running the same offensive plays, and a good coaching staff would say, okay, this hasn't worked. We've tried this for 6 weeks. It didn't work. We need to change it up. It doesn't matter. We need to at least we're going to start doing this more. We're going to get rid of this. It's not working. Like, it just doesn't make any sense to me, right? We're all like, we're not even, like you said, we don't have access to all these analytics. We don't have access to the coach's tape. We're not in the room with these players. So, like, if we're seeing it, what are they not seeing?
Right. If I can see it on the game that I DVR'd from game day.
Yeah, you're watching just the Fox broadcast.
Right. I'm watching the broadcast. Like, I'm not watching the all 22. I'm not watching the end zone view that gives me the whole field and I can see the formation and I can see the play developing. I'm just watching the game. And I can see that. Mm-hmm. So, like, it just, for me, it doesn't compute to making great decisions on how to move this team forward. It just
it goes back to when the whole coaching situation, when they were interviewing coaches. Like, the guy that I really wanted was Brian Dable, who's the offensive coordinator of the Bills. He wouldn't even take the interview here. He said, I don't want to come.
He's like, no, I'm not even coming.
So, like,
he probably knows how it is to deal with Howie,
but he doesn't exactly. He's not that type of person. He said, I don't want to be a yes man. That's the reason why McDaniels was in the final running, and at the end he turned it down too, because they want somebody that's going to do what they say, and they don't like somebody that fires back at them and tells them, no, this is what we need to do. They think they're football guys when they're mathletes. There's a difference. Listen, nothing against mathletes. They're probably all much smarter than me when it comes to doing their taxes and financial planning. Great. But when it comes to football, I don't think they know anything.
Yeah, no,
Oscar hasn't stepped on a football field in what, 10 years? You still would be like, yeah, that guy can play, that guy can't play.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's not that hard.
I'm not a math either.
So. They're making it much harder. They think that they're smarter than everybody. It's the old adage. They're smart. They're the smartest people in the room. They're going to do it their way, and that's it.
Yeah,
so we got to deal with it.
Even like this last game, I think this game and the Chiefs game, the games that they lost, like, I think that those games also gave them. It's giving the fan base a false sense of security in terms of seeing the final score and not actually watching the game and not realizing that, like,
no, the games were a lot worse than the score.
If the Chiefs really wanted to, like, they could have hung a 50 burger on you without even thinking about it. So could the Bucs. Like, the Bucs saw halftime. At halftime, they're up by 2 touchdowns, and they're like, all right, we're gonna coast, we're gonna bleed the clock, we're gonna run the ball. We're just
because this team's not good enough to come back down 2 touchdowns.
Right. And they basically said, we're going to do is get out of here. We're going to get out of here with a win, and we're going to get 10 days off before our next game.
Yeah.
So even like, I don't see where, like, this team right now is exactly where we thought they'd be.
The issue that I have with this is that the second half of this schedule is much easier than it was the first half. So they're going to get a couple wins just based on teams being beat up or
The
some good
Giants,
luck.
like they
Somebody's
got
going to play
3 games
bad.
against the
Somebody's
Giants
going
and the Jets.
somebody's going to play bad, or they're going to get a win they shouldn't necessarily get. And at the end of the year, people are going to be like, "Oh, it's not that bad," and then they get a false sense of hope again, saying, "Well, next year, we're going in with the same quarterback. We're going to lose." So look at this line. Who do you have? The same thing we talked about last week. Who do you have going forward that you like? This team, and we got all this money on the front four, and they are like, I like Hargraves, I like Sweat. They're still really good players. They're not going to make an impact because now the tape is out on the Eagles. Get the ball out in 2 seconds across the middle because the Eagles linebackers are atrocious. They can't cover and they can't tackle. So if I want to get to my tight end or my wide receiver, if they're playing Slay 10 yards off, he runs a slant across the middle. He's going to catch it. He's going to go because these linebackers can't play.
Right.
So Jonathan Gannon, people are giving him slack. I honestly think it's the same thing with Schwartz. Schwartz was a good coach. They don't give them the right personnel on defense. It's been a problem.
They don't have the personnel to be able to be competitive. Their second level is so weak and such an Achilles heel that other teams can kind of cherry pick exactly. Like it's like, oh, well, who is Avonte Maddox cover? Okay, we're gonna go to him. Who is like the fact that Alex Singleton or whoever was playing linebacker at that point ended up on Tyreek Hill in that Chiefs game. Like, how does that happen?
You don't think Patrick Mahomes sees that right away and he's like,
right.
I'm getting him the ball.
Right. That's the one where like Tyreek Hill looks at him, he looks back and he goes, yeah, just go. Just run, just run. I'm just going to throw it up. And what ended up happening? He runs under the ball, catches the ball 50 yards down the field, and scores a touchdown.
Yeah, and it's like the linebackers are terrible. You have 2 good corners. Avonte's fine in the slot, like he's okay, but then the safeties aren't that good either.
But then, like in the Bucs game, right? It was pick your poison, right? You got Mike Evans, you got Godwin, and you got Antonio Brown.
When you play a team like that's why when we play Dallas,
you got OJ Howard, and you got Leonard Fournette. Like
when we play Dallas, we're gonna get smoked.
Dude.
Because we can't – well, first of all, right now we can't stop the run. Then we have to cover CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper. Michael Gallup will be back at that point.
Michael Gallup.
And
tight end is really good.
Yeah. And then what they're going to do is then once that happens, in the middle, they're going to run Zeke and Pollard. They're going to run checkdowns to the running backs in the middle, and they're just going to move the chains and move the chains and move the chains.
Can we talk about Diggs for half a second?
Sure.
That dude is a fucking animal.
He's got his brother's really good too.
Like he's got what 7? He's got 7 picks. 2 pick six.
He dropped. I think he should have 8 or 9 picks. He actually dropped 1 or 2, I think.
But he's got more touchdowns than his brother.
Yeah, and I know that they said apparently when he went to Alabama, he went in as a receiver, and Coach Saban told him that he wasn't good enough to be a receiver and he needs to be a corner, and they turned him into a corner. I mean, last year he was really bad last year too. So I give him a lot of credit. Like he really worked on his game because last year he was getting abused last year. Yeah. Remember, every time I saw the film, the Cowboys were losing. It was a big play and Diggs was just getting beat. So he worked on his game. I mean, it's the old like the cornerbacks. It's like when we had Asante Samuel, he would be very aggressive with picks. Guys don't play like that anymore. These guys, get challenged and they're scared to get beat so bad that they don't ever try and get any turnovers.
And a lot of that, I mean, has been penalized out of the game.
Sure. Yeah, they can't really – you can't hand check. You can't play physical anymore on receivers. It's fine. But,
and the taunting penalties are a joke.
Get started.
It's like the NFL, like you just gave the players that freedom of expression to be able to celebrate plays and celebrate touchdowns. And then in the other hand, you're taking it away because if they don't do it the way that you've described that they should do it, then you're going to penalize them. And some of these penalties are in really, really bad spots where like that 15 yards is sometimes a different. There were a couple games where like that's the difference between the game because they end up putting that field goal or that penalty puts them in field goal range. and they end up winning the game.
It's like the whole episode. It's like that Key and Peele episode, Oscar.
Yeah.
The football episode when the referee gets right down at his pelvis when he's doing the humping, and he's like, "You do it one more time," he blows the whistle. That's what they're doing with the taunting penalties, bro. It's like they're watching everything. They're watching what you say. They're like, "Is he going to curse? If he curses, I'm going to get him. If he says that, it's his house. I'm going to get him." Like, wow, relax.
Treating adults.
Nobody wants to watch the refs.
Yeah,
the refs. I don't know. I don't know your name. I don't see you. Same thing in every sport. Umpires, baseball, soccer, the same way. Let them play. It's good to be physical.
Yeah.
Right.
Obviously, if it's malicious, you call that. But
that's funny that you bring up reffing because in the Premier League they actually switched. They didn't switch. They kind of instructed officials to stop calling fouls for soft touches.
Yeah, be aggressive. They're grown men,
and the quality of the games have gotten so much better. Like it's ridiculous. Like
and then people stop because the players too adjust. They know.
Yeah, of course.
They know. All right, if I'm this little flop where this guy nudges me, if he's calling that, if he's going to stop calling it, and then I fall, and then now we're down a defender, then that hurts my team. Mm-hmm. So I need to just be aggressive back. That's what they need to do in every sport. It's like the call in the Dodgers-Giants game. Terrible. Not saying that he was going to get a hit or the Giants would have won, but you can't call a check swing. That first of all, he did check his swing.
You
struck him out on that to lose the series for the Giants. You just can't do that.
The fact that game that decided not only that game but that series between two teams that won 100+ games is such a travesty.
And people only remember.
And the craziest thing is that they have replay, but they won't replay that
judgment calls. Yeah, okay.
Like,
and you look at the replay and you can see clear as day. You're like, all right, he didn't swing.
And how long does that replay take? Right, that replay legit takes.
They don't even need to look at them themselves. They have somebody in Secaucus that could say, "Yo, he didn't swing." You're right, he didn't swing.
Like to me, I stayed up and watched that game, and I'm like, holy shit, that legit thought. Like
if that would happen to the Phillies,
that's how that game just ended.
Because it's the Giants, and they don't have the media presence. If that would happen to the Phillies or the Yankees or, a team like that in a major market to lose a series, it would be really bad for the sport.
Of course.
They're already struggling. And then something like that to decide a series, it's like, come on, that's all anybody remembers from that series. You don't know who pitched which game. You don't know who hit a big home run. You don't know anything. You just know that umpire ended the series. That's it.
That's it. That's all. And that's all.
And then that's what people are going to remember next year too. So that's exactly what you're saying. It's just terrible.
I can't believe I'm rooting for the Braves, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, what's funny is that I am too because I don't want them to win the World Series, but I can't stand the Giants. I mean, I can't stand the Dodgers. Man.
Dodgers.
Yeah, no.
I know if we were playing, we would win because we always beat the Dodgers. The Dodgers could never beat the Phillies, but it's like. I just saw that too. Bellinger had a 3-run home run tied up, and now they're winning in the top of the ninth. So the Braves, I mean, it's a game they were up. I was looking at the seventh inning. I'm like, oh, they're up by 3. They should win this and go up 3-0. And now they're going to lose. So.
And here, does that swing the series back? Like, does that give the Dodgers that gives them momentum playing another? They're going to play Game 4 at home. And I can't remember who's. Do you know who's starting for them the next game?
I will check and find out.
But having that, I saw that 3-run home run come up, and then now they're up, going into the top of the ninth. Does that now swing them? Does that now swing the momentum back to the Dodgers now having another game at home, being able to tie the series up 2-2 when legit, the Braves could have been up 3-0.
Yeah, it doesn't say, but and the Red Sox are winning too right now. They're up 2-1.
They're up 2-1, right?
They're up 2-1 in the series too.
Yeah.
So I'll have to look and see who the scheduled starters are, but I mean the playoff baseball games have been pretty good. So that's good for the sport, but it's like people are still talking about, like, we're still talking about the umpire. That was last series. It's been 3 or 4 games now that have gone on since then, and it's like people are still talking about it and wondering how you have replay and you fuck it up, right? It's like when the NFL first started with the replay,
Yeah.
they had replay and they were fucking it up. And with all the cameras and technology today, like, you can see everything.
Well,
So
and
to not be allowed to challenge that, or at least that should be an automatic. Like, any check swing should be an automatic. Like, the umpire has a thing like, hey, check that. And they go, yeah, he swung, or no, he didn't swing. You're like, all right, he didn't swing. Or he didn't swing.
Like when they're asking for the appeal, right? The appeal shouldn't be to the umpire at first base. The appeal should be to the guy who's sitting in a booth under the stadium that has 65 camera angles, because now that Fox, like, whoever's broadcasting the games, it's Fox or ESPN or whoever, they've got cameras in the dirt, they've got cameras right in front of the plate, they've got the cameras that are going down each baseline. Like, you have enough places where you can collect that data very quickly and look at that and say, yes, it is, no, it isn't. And
yeah, I've done that at games before on the line, and when somebody's like, they go to swing, it's still hard to tell, even with good eyes. It's hard to tell for sure. Now, they probably get it right 85, 90% of the time. They probably do, but It's still the 10% always stands out bad. You're like, all right, they missed that. And I always say, in that situation, you err on the side of caution and you say he didn't swing.
Right.
Especially, it's not 3-2 count, bases loaded. It's going to decide the series either way. It was 0-2. It's called a ball.
Right.
Make him throw a strike.
So
would he have gotten a hit? I don't know. He might not have gotten a hit. He might have struck out the next pitch. But at least then it's not about the umpire.
Right. It's yeah. I mean, the fact that decided the series, though, is just and Nick, you're right. Like, that's the thing that people are going to be talking about, not the games, because the games have been great. To see the way that Atlanta has kind of taken it. They took it to they took it to LA in the first 2 games at home. And I would like to see like, if I'm rooting in the AL, I'm rooting Boston. Like, I don't want to see I want to see the Dodgers and Astros lose. But I think either way, it's going to be a good series.
I would say that it's been pretty good so far. You know what I mean? But we'll have to see what happens. I think that.
Let's go to better news, right? Finally, we could talk about this.
I mean, the first game, then, the two of the 4 goals that they gave up in that first game early, when they gave up those 4 consecutive goals in the second period, were kind of fluky, right? You've got one that bounces off the boards in the back, comes back and caroms off Hart, and the way that they came back and played last night, I think the thing that I'm liking about what I've seen out of the first 2 games of this team is that there's a lot of aggression, right? There's a lot of aggressive play. There's a lot of guys that are shoot first, not trying to make 67 pass. Like, you don't have Voracek trying to make 3 extra passes to get, like, you've got Atkinson and Ellis and those guys that are trying to get shots on the net. And I think,
you can't score without shooting. You need shots to score, man. I always say, as I love hockey too, growing up watching the Legion of Doom line and like how good they used to be. It's like, if Hart plays to his potential, this team is significantly going to be improved. Now, the defense still probably isn't where it needs to be, but they've made significant improvements with, pairing Provorov with a competent guy that he can learn from. Makes his life a lot easier, because look at the numbers at the end of last year. Provorov probably wasn't that good, but I think that he was just trying to do so much. Every time I watched, he was on the ice a ton. and he's
Yeah.
trying to be aggressive because the other person next to him is playing. He's playing with us. You know what I mean? He's playing with guys that shouldn't be, first line defensemen, right? They should be, minor league guys, or maybe somebody gets hurt, they play. It's like Ellis is a good player. I like Ellis. He's always been a good player.
Yeah.
I like, Ristolainen, like he's got a bad rep just because he played in Buffalo for so long, and they always have stunk. They haven't been good since what? Since they had those black jerseys, man.
Yeah, wow.
You know what I mean? That's probably the last time they were like, I remember them being like good. They
Yeah.
probably had a year before then, but I remember when I was a kid and I got really into hockey for a while. I'm trying to remember who the goalie was at the time. He was really good.
Was that Hasek?
It's probably Dominic Hasek, yeah.
But like the way that
he used to wear a weird face mask too. And I remember Osgood on the Red Wings used to wear like they wore different helmets.
Right, they wore like the regular hockey helmet with the wire cage in front.
Yeah, and it looked weird, but they probably had really good vision. You know what I mean? But it's like, so this team is going to be better just based on the acquisitions they made, right? They're a year into Vigneault's system. I like that Fletcher has been aggressive with making moves he needs to. Moving Voracek was addition by subtraction anyway. He needed to go. And I just love watching, like, Couturier is so good, man.
He is.
I love watching that dude play. He played, he led the team in minutes yesterday, which he should probably, because he does everything. He really is a true, like, he'll play D, he'll score, he passes, he'll fight, he's physical, he's very smart on the ice. Like,
and I think that's another thing you saw, right? You saw them be aggressive. You saw them come at, like last night, they score three girls.
That's nice. Three girls. No, good night. That is a good night for Couturier.
I was gonna say that's Oscar. No, they got three goals early, and they came out and they get two more, and then you see Seattle try to kind of flex a little bit, and you got guys that kind of just took it to them, right? You got guys that are getting in fights. You got guys that are fighting back that aren't taking anybody's shit. That guys that went after Giroux, that on the next shift somebody's coming out to kind of handle his business. I love the fact that at one point I think they had like 4 or 5 guys in the penalty box at one point last night. So having the guys there that are going to have grit, that are going to have that kind of like we're not taking anybody's shit kind of thing.
Yeah.
Really gives me a good kind of mental spot to be in with this squad, to say like you could see where those moves on the defensive end with Provorov pairing him with a guy where he's not carrying everybody that he's playing with and not skating around logging extra minutes trying to do everything and anything that he's got to do to get his team to hold that back end back. For me, I look at that and I'm like, that's going to be the biggest difference between where they were last year and where they were.
What's up, Jace?
This year.
Don, do you know why Ristolainen didn't play yesterday?
Is
he hurt, or was it a healthy scratch? Did they just scratch him?
From what I can see, like he was still he still wasn't 100%.
Okay.
So
that's fine. Like, especially early in the season, I'd rather have them do that,
Right.
But like, I'm just looking at the minutes played from the defense. Provorov still led the team in minutes and the D in minutes. He should. He's your best defensive player. He's also, I know that if I'm a goalie, I don't want to see him lining one up from the blue line and let one rip at me. So that's good. But, Sanheim played 21 minutes. You got Ellis played 22 and a half minutes, which is good. And then the other guys were all pretty good. Yandel, 17 minutes. I just like that they have defensemen that are all veterans that have won a lot of games, like Justin Braun, not Ryan Braun, not the steroid boy. Justin Braun, and then Ellis, and then Yandel's been around too. Like, that kid Sealer looked pretty good yesterday. He was physical. I like him fighting. I like when the guys fight. I like to see that. I like when they like to take the gloves off and hit a guy in the jaw a little bit. It's good for you.
It showed me that like they're not taking any, like they're not going to sit there and take anybody's shit. So like even if they're up big, that like if you go to take a shot at Giroux, we got a guy who's going to come after you. You saw, plays where, even Yandle on the back end sets up a forward for a goal. This is where I think those moves that are playing with the guys that have experience, right?
Yeah.
They, if you look at their offseason moves, right? We talked about that a couple weeks ago, where like a lot of the guys that they brought in are guys that are assistant captains and captains on former squads. That's going to go a long way for young guys like Farabee, like Provorov, right? Guys that are trying to grow, that are going to lean on those guys for leadership. So for me, those moves I think are going to pay off. It's kind of like that slow burn. You're going to see that pay off kind of throughout the season, where those guys are going to get that experience while also leaning on guys that have played in those games, that have been in those spots.
For sure.
And then have been in leadership positions on their other squads.
Yeah, I mean, they're in a good division. So, like, what's the expectations? Like, I think hockey is the one sport where it's crazy. You can go from first to last. Like, it happens all the time. That's the one sport it does happen. So I think they're going to be substantially better this year, just with, there's no way Carter Hart's going to be the Carter Hart he was last year.
No.
Right? Like, he worked on it. I know he made it a point. He's young. He's been highly touted his whole life, right? So there is expectations and pressure that comes with that, on top of the defensemen in front of him literally were garbage men, right? Like, you had one good defenseman. Like Sanheim was still young. He made some plays last year, but he made a lot of mistakes. Provorov made mistakes just out of trying to do too much,
right?
That type of deal. And now that you have all these veterans on defense that, none of them are in their prime, but they're all vets that have been there and done that. Right. They're going to make Provorov and Sanheim better just because of that, right? They're going to make the other young guys, that, like you said, Farabee, Lindblom, all those guys better just by their experience and, just kind of teaching them how to play real professional hockey, with the rule, because they've changed the rules so much in hockey. It's faster. You can't hit like you used to. It's good. Like, I love watching today's game. It's faster. Hockey. Every time I watch hockey, it's just crazy. Like, I always say it's the hardest sport. Like, it really is. I mean, aside from boxing, getting punched in the face for a living, right? Like hockey, because you need the hand-eye coordination. You also need to be able to skate. You're doing it on ice skates, right? Wearing all these pads, and these guys can shoot these pucks 115 miles an hour sometimes, right? The rink is smaller when you're 6'4", 6'5". Some of these guys look like ogres on the ice. It's like, but hockey is a sport like baseball. You can have guys that are 5'6" that are really good hockey players. It's really about just knowing how to maximize your game. So Flyer, that was always the first sport like that I got into, just based on like my grandparents and everything used to love Flyers. So I always want them to be good. Flyers fans are the true core of the Flyers fans, always ride or die with the Flyers. Right. And, that's my favorite like game to go to is a Flyers game. So
I mean, the hockey games are great because there's always like
it's never boring, man. Even if they're losing, there's always something going on.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're going to see all when they play tomorrow night, when they play Boston, you're going to see Martin Jones in net. You're going to see him as a backup. I think it's you're going to see. I mean, he's a guy who was kind of stuck on a really shitty San Jose team last year.
Yep.
So it was a move that didn't get a ton of notoriety, but could be a move that kind of gives them support. I think, Nick, you were talking about them making a move at some point. I think at some point they need a sniper, right? They need a guy who's just going to like rip through and just score a bunch of goals.
Yeah.
And the guy I heard somebody talk about was Gaudreau. I mean, Johnny Gaudreau is the guy who has always kind of pined for coming back and playing here. Is that a guy they look at maybe towards the middle of the season at the trade deadline as a guy that maybe if they're in contention could put them over the top and maybe take them out of a wild card spot?
Yeah,
and put them in the top 3 of their division.
Yeah, I mean, and then I'm looking too at the injury report, the full injury report. I mean, at some point, hockey, it's going to be tough to get everybody healthy on the same page. But going later in the year, when you get Maureen back right on D, he makes you better, right? You
Right.
get Risto and Morin back, you're going to be better. Kevin Hayes is going to come back at some point, right? So hopefully everybody kind of falls into place. You're going to have some guys maybe not play. That first, second, and third line, you need them all to be at their best when it matters, right?
Right.
Hockey is also a sport, just like baseball, highly in momentum. You get hot, guys start playing good, start believing, then you turn into the St. Louis Blues a couple years ago, right? You just get hot at the right time. And hockey is it's quintessentially the team with the hottest goalie usually wins it all, right? That's always how it usually works, right? So, listen, I know Carter Hart can be that guy. It's just we need him to step up to the plate, right? So, I mean, you have Vasilevsky with the Lightning. That's why they're so good all the time, because he's a stud. It's we look at all those goalies over there. That's why the Devils were always so good. They had Brodeur, he was a stud. The Avalanche had Patrick Waugh, he was a stud. So, all these teams were good during those stretches because of goaltending. It's like the Blackhawks when the Flyers lost to the Blackhawks in the Stanley Cup. You know what I mean? It's like they had good players, but their goaltending is why
it puts them over the top. It's that linchpin of what kind of allows them.
You just don't need soft goals. No soft goals, right? You got to make sure that you don't give up a rebound in a bad spot. It's hard.
That's where I think when I look at Hart, when I compare those first two games, I think the fact that he came back on Monday night and had a really good, solid, consistent game, made a couple of great, phenomenal saves where he's he's moving laterally, side to side, where he's able to kind of navigate the one play where he makes the save and then makes a save on the rebound that bounces off out in front of the net. The fact that you saw that bounce back, I think that's the kind of response that you need when you have a period where you give up 4 goals the night before. Not the night before, but the game before you give up 4 goals. 2 of them are kind of like soft goals, to come back the next night and now have that kind of response where you give up a goal late in the third period when you're already up 5. I think it's a good response.
Yeah, and I mean, they did, even though they gave up those goals, that they played tough against the Canucks and they were able to end up getting it to the shootout. You're not going to win every shootout, but at least you get a point out of it, right? So, we'll take it. Listen, we'll take it. We don't want those. And normally last year, a team like that, you give up those goals, they just collapse last year. But we did also start off pretty good last year too. So we got to just make sure we keep the consistency up. The new vets, they made a lot of changes with turnover, and the team was good. I like Atkinson's already got 4 goals, right? Like he's, you need a guy like that who's it wasn't that you need guys that, not just snipers, but they didn't have any willing shooters last year.
Right. Nobody wanted to shoot.
Shoot the fucking puck.
Everybody wanted to make, last year, I think the thing that was the hard part was everybody was trying to make an extra pass.
Yeah, it's like in basketball. Sometimes you don't need to make the extra pass every time. Take the open shot. You shouldn't always be looking for, but Oscar has a better shot. No, bro, you got an open lane. Take the shot.
Yeah.
Right.
You never know what can happen. There's deflections, there's rebounds. It's a lot easier for a goalie to save 19 shots than it is to save 32, right? Just based on the numbers. They're not all going to be great shots, but put the fucking puck. There was last year I used to get I stopped watching them because there's power plays where they're, you got a man advantage and they're not shooting the puck. I'm like, you got a man advantage. What are you doing?
Yeah, that part I didn't get.
I've watched Atkinson before. He touched that puck, don't stay on his stick long. He wants to shoot that thing.
No, it's not going to stay that long. He's great. I mean, and you saw that, last night. You saw him anytime he had within earshot of being able to make a shot, even if there were guys that were coming at him or guys that were near him, he was still shooting the puck. So that, I think, is also going to kind of rub off on some of the young guys too. Yeah. That kind of shoot first, be aggressive, push the puck, dump it. You're going to dump it in, and you're going to. There were a couple plays where they were able to keep the puck in the net, in the zone, and force extra shots. It's only going to help this.
Yeah, I mean, Farabee, Farabee and Lawton need to see that and say, oh, like it's nice. I need to shoot the puck. That's how you get paid, baby. Score goals, man.
Right.
You know, you need to put the puck in the net to win the game. So, yeah, the best
Oscar,
part of
what
the
do you
show.
got?
Best part of the show.
All
There
right,
you
2
go.
minutes. 2 minutes. All right, 2 minutes.
What do
So
you got, Jeremy Lin?
this kind of goes towards like what the play calling is and what is going on with the Eagles, but Manchester United's going through something very similar where the higher ups, the board, the owners hired a yes man, and essentially our team sucks. We have no actual game plan going into games. It's literally pass to Ronaldo, pass to Rashford, pass to Cavani, pass to Bruno. Let them figure out what to do with the ball. That works against maybe 10 teams in the entire world. We've been doing awful. So it kind of just goes back to what the hell's going on in practice. What's our game plan going? And nobody knows. Nobody really even knows what we do in practice because in set pieces we hired somebody to actually make us better in set piece, and then we're still letting up the same goal. So it just makes you wonder what is even going on behind the scenes. And I don't know. That's my 2 minutes. I'm just really frustrated with this team. You spend $450 million, and this is what you get. You lose against a team that you should be comfortably winning against. It just doesn't make any sense.
Do you think they got too comfortable?
No, I just honestly think there is no game plan whatsoever. When it comes,
Do you think they got Ronaldo and just said, "Fuck it, he can do whatever"?
essentially, yeah. And honestly, I still want Ronaldo on this team. I'm not saying that he hurts us. It's just that I think what ended up happening is they were like, "Oh, we got Ronaldo. We no longer need to buy a midfielder because he makes up for that with his miracle goals." It just doesn't work that way in the Premier League. It's literally, it's the stupidest league in the world because the worst team in the league could beat the best team in the league any day of the week.
Yeah,
It's just,
the talent level's so good, right?
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like
That's why,
like
you spend all this money on good players, but you also need to make sure you have a good coach that the players respect and also knows what he's doing. This way you can say, just because we have Ronaldo and he's really good, the other team that we're playing, Liverpool, they're really good too.
Yeah.
They got a lot of really expensive players that are making a lot of money.
And
So
much
we
better than
can't,
we
it's not, we can't just play street ball, right?
Yeah.
We're not playing backyard soccer like on the schoolyard. We need to make sure we game plan and set up set pieces and set up what we're going to do. And I mean, it just goes right to that, Oscar. They're spending all this money on players, but like you said, they want a guy that when they tell them, "Hey, we spent all this money on Ronaldo, just make sure he touches the ball as much as possible."
Yeah.
And you're like, yeah, okay, but are we going to win? Because if we don't win, I'm still going to get fired, bro. It doesn't matter. Like the coach, you need to have that type as a coach to be like, listen, like, because I might be a yes man, but if we're losing, then I'm still the fall guy. You're not. So like, I'm going to try and win.
And that's like it just comes back to like these coaches nowadays. These owners have too much. I mean, of course, you're gonna have so much control, but what do owners know about the game of what they own?
Yeah.
Very few and apart. Our owners are actually knowledgeable on this stuff. It's just ridiculous.
Unless Messi and Ronaldo are the owners of the team.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, it's the same. Every sport's the same, man. That's why it's like a big business, bro. Like, don't you want to hire good people and let them do their job so then it's less stress that you have to do, and it's like less. It's going to cost you less long term. Like it's just, I feel like it makes sense, but then again, we're also not mega rich and don't own these multi-billion-dollar corporations. So what do we know? It sounds good in theory until they give us until I have that much money and power.
But I mean, like it goes back, like for instance, like just look at teams that have like the high, like sometimes it does backfire. Like when Larry Bird was on the Pacers, like hiring a brain, sometimes they overthink themselves. But there's so many success stories of when people who are very knowledgeable of the game and they get to position of leadership and not ownership exactly, but like making actual decisions for the owners, like CEOs and whatnot. It ends up being like really good for them.
Right.
Yeah. But, hire somebody that knows the sport really well.
Right.
But let's go on to the final thoughts, fellas. Start with Nick.
I mean, I don't got much today, man. We talked about everything. I got to rant a little bit about the Eagles' struggles. I mean, I just want people to make sure they have the right expectations. I think right now our hope is The Sixers are going to surprise. I think I saw the over-under went down to 49, right?
Ooh.
It seems low, but also the East is pretty good. But I also think that they might use this Ben Simmons thing to kind of surprise some people, right? I think because I think Joe is going to come out and play like a madman, which, he needs to anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm really hoping that, if they win 50 games, it depends on what happens with Ben, right? If they get something for him, then I expect that. But if he sits out all year or he holds out or he plays sparingly, then winning 58 games is people are going to be like, damn, they really won 58 games. That's pretty crazy. It's a good team. But like I said, the East is good. So I saw that bet and I was like, that's pretty interesting. I see that. Vegas is usually pretty good.
I was going to say, they're normally spot on.
But I still think the Flyers are the winner team that are going to have a better year overall.
Mm-hmm.
Could make me eat my words, but I just know that how hockey is with it being, up and down, in basketball and football, you have the right core pieces. Good teams stay good for a while, right? Bad teams stay bad for a while. Right. So the Flyers made the right changes with Fletcher as a GM, made some moves. If your goalie plays well, they'll be good. So I'm just gonna try and watch as many Flyers games as I can this year. It's been a while since I actually sat and watched a lot of games, just because, like last year, it was just really frustrating to watch them. Sort of like when I was watching the Phillies this year. It's like I'm just like, come on, bro. Like, what are you guys doing? So I'm really excited. I think that to beat Boston. People always want them to beat Boston and Pittsburgh and New Jersey, and I think it's good because when you play those rivalries as much as they do in their division, it's going to force you to play hard every night. Which right. Hockey players usually, I give hockey players credit. They really do play hard every night. Most of them, they're not like a lot of the other sports where guys take days off. In hockey, you can't really take a play off because if you take a play off and you skate across the middle, your lights go out quick, right? So,
right.
I mean, seriously, dudes. I mean, the game's different, but you can still take a 100-mile-an-hour slap shot to the head. So,
well, listen, the thing that kind of popped up, the news dump on Friday of Ertz getting moved to Arizona. I think for me, like a guy that did a lot for this team, that this is a move that was kind of best for both parties. Not to say that what they got in return was astounding. I don't think that a lot of people had a lot of realistic expectations of what you were going to get back for him.
Sure.
So, he's going to a great spot where he's going to be another he's going to be another weapon in that arsenal on that Arizona offense. A guy that could really put them over the top. But I really liked what I saw on social media today. A lot of the thank you that he put out to the fans and to the city really kind of speaks to, we kind of started the show talking about character and the character of a player, and how, Ben Simmons is kind of on one end of the spectrum. And I feel like, Zach Ertz is kind of on the other end. He was a guy who, always kind of gave back. He and his wife kind of, they had their foundation. So I like there was a lot of cool stuff that I saw on social media today with people donating $8.60, to charities in their name, or donating $86 or whatever. So say the fans in this town always get a bad rap. They always get highlighted for doing stupid shit, dumping popcorn on people. But I think that there are things like this that also happen in the city that we've seen a lot happen over the course of the last couple of years. There was something a couple of years. Was there something in Buffalo where there was a game where they won, and then everybody
needed the Bengals to win.
What was it?
They won, and they needed the Bengals to win, but I don't remember who they had to beat to get into the playoffs, and they did, and they like Bill's Mafia gave a lot of money to charity to Andy Dalton's foundation and stuff.
That's
like
what
that.
It was.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of that kind of stuff going on in sports. So
which is good.
Yeah, which is great, and it kind of it allows those fan bases to kind of collectively merge together. but just I love what I saw from this fan base today. And good luck to him. Oscar, what do you got?
I mean, it's just a shame. Like it did. Like there was reports saying that like this unrest started last year, right, with Ben Simmons. So like, it's like what changed in one season? Like it just literally turned from a terrible situation to even a worse situation when it came, after that playoff loss and all that he did. So like it's just like what happened? What happened in that locker room? Was it really the fans that did it? Like,
no, that's just an excuse, man.
Yeah, like I really don't see that. Like I just don't get what could have happened in such a short amount of time. Like imagine being pissed off that you're getting traded for James Harden. Like just grow up. Like it can't be that. It has to have been something else. Who knows what it was?
Yeah, and there was other stories like, oh, you might get traded for like Bradley Beal, and there's other. I'm like, if any, like all those players that they were talking about were better than him. So like, if you really think that you're better than them, then prove it on the court.
Right, go out and prove it.
Only thing you can do. But I do know that the Nets are down by 16 right now with 4 minutes left. So
yeah, I did see that.
Giannis with 32 and 13 right now again.
Right off the bat, man.
Yeah.
Right off the bat, I don't know. It's just so hard to watch. It's so hard to watch this play out this way. But we'll see how it plays out. I mean, it's literally a soap opera that's kind of unfolding. And
we should have kept Jimmy Butler and moved Ben back then, I guess, in hindsight, right?
Hindsight's 20.
What a difference what a difference that move would have made.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Still crazy. I mean, we would have probably been champions that year if that shot by Kawhi doesn't go in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because remember that Warriors team. They
got decimated by injury.
They fell apart. They got decimated by injuries.
Durant got hurt in like the first or second game of the championship series, and it's like, that's what I'm saying. Like, so that shot doesn't go in, the Sixers probably win, and then the whole thing changes, right? Then Jimmy might not leave, but he saw the writing on the wall with the issues with Ben.
Yep.
And how he was coddled by the organization.
He was a scapegoat. Everybody wanted to kind of bash on Jimmy Butler, but hindsight being what it was, he was right.
Durant just hit a 3, so
all right, Philly.
It's unreal too.
Well, it's been a pleasure, guys. Definitely be back next week, right? Hopefully Rich can join us.
Check out. We got our second episode of Drunk on Ice on Thursday night. So we're going to be, crushing pucks and scoring goals and talking about, all things, the first 3 games and, kind of, work around the league a little bit. Mike Giletto from Fired Up is going to join us on Thursday night to talk some pucks. So
Clark Duke, baby.
Should be a good conversation. And all the support for that show has been great. We're pushing over 2,100 views on social media. So everybody who's kind of checking that out, thank you for your support. See you on Thursday.
Peace.
Deuce.
Peace out, boys.